The bathroom door swung open, and my heart stopped. Steam curled around us, thick and suffocating, as Ethan and I froze under the shower spray, our laughter dying in an instant. My dad stood there, his silhouette framed in the doorway, his face unreadable, and then he said something that shattered everything I thought I knew about him. About me. About us. My name is Lucas Rivera, 17. A junior at Westbridge High in a sleepy Ohio suburb where everyone knows everyone's business. I'd spent my whole life blending in baseball cap low, hoodie up, just another kid navigating the halls of a school obsessed with football and Friday night lights. Ethan Caldwell was the opposite, the golden boy, star of the soccer team, with a smile that could charm teachers and a laugh that echoed like it owned the room. We'd been best friends since 6th grade, when he stole my pencil and drew a cartoon of our math teacher on my notebook. That was Ethan, fearless, reckless, always pulling me into his orbit. That day in the shower wasn't planned. It never is it? The moments that change your life sneak up like a fastball you didn't see coming. It was a Saturday, the kind of crisp September afternoon where the air smells like leaves and possibility. Ethan had slept over after we stayed up late playing video games, trash talking, and sneaking sips of my dad's beer from the fridge. We were invincible, or so we thought, until we decided to shower off the sweat from an impromptu backyard soccer match. One shower, 2 guys. No big deal until it was. We were joking, shoving each other under the water, when Ethan's hand lingered on my shoulder a second too long. His eyes met mine, and the air shifted, heavy with something neither of us had dared name. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly we were closer, water streaming down our faces, our breaths mixing with the steam. It wasn't a kiss not yet, but it was close enough to feel like one. That's when the door opened. Dad didn't yell. He didn't storm out. He just stood there, his work boots still dusty from the construction site, his flannel shirt untucked. "Lucas," he said, his voice calm but sharp, like a blade hidden in silk. "You and Ethan get dressed. We need to talk." Then he turned and walked away, leaving the door open and my world spinning. I scrambled out of the shower, my hands shaking as I grabbed a towel. Ethan was pale, his usual confidence gone, his eyes wide with the same panic I felt. "What the hell just happened?" he whispered, pulling on his jeans. I didn't have an answer. My dad, Miguel Rivera, was a man of few words, a widower who raised me alone after Mom died when I was 8. He was tough, traditional, the kind of guy who'd rather fix a car than talk about feelings. I'd spent years hiding parts of myself from him, terrified he'd see the truth I barely understood myself. We dressed in silence, the weight of what was coming pressing down like a storm cloud. Downstairs, Dad was in the living room, sitting in his old recliner, a beer in his hand. The TV was off, which was worse. It meant this was serious. Ethan and I sat on the couch, leaving a careful gap between us, like that could erase what Dad had seen. "Lucas," Dad started, his dark eyes flicking between us. "Ethan, I'm not going to pretend I know what's going on with you two, but I know what I saw, and I know my son." He leaned forward, his calloused hands clasped tight. "And I know I haven't been the kind of dad you could talk to about this." I stared at the floor, my face burning. Ethan shifted beside me, his knee bouncing nervously. "Mr. Rivera," he started, his voice cracking. "It's not we didn't." Dad held up a hand. "I'm not asking for explanations. Not yet. But Lucas, you're my kid, and I need you to know I love you, no matter what." He paused, his jaw tight, like the words were fighting to get out. "I don't understand everything, but I'm not going to lose you over it." The room was silent except for the hum of the fridge in the kitchen. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't look at Ethan. My whole life, I'd braced for rejection, for the moment the world would see me and turn away. But here was my dad, The man who'd once grounded me for a month for sneaking out, saying he loved me in a way I never expected. Ethan cleared his throat. Mr. Rivera, I'm sorry if. Don't apologize. Dad cut in. Softer now. You're a good kid. Ethan, you've been good for Lucas. Just give me some time to figure this out. Okay. We nodded. Both of us, too, stunned to say more. Dad stood, his beer still untouched, and walked to the kitchen. Dinner's in an hour. He called over his shoulder, like it was any other Saturday. But it wasn't. It was the day everything changed. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Ethan's sleeping bag sprawled on the floor beside me. He was quiet, but I knew he wasn't asleep. You okay? I whispered. Yeah, he said, but his voice was small. You? No idea. I turned to face him, his profile barely visible in the dark. What are we doing, Ethan? He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, whatever it is, I don't want to stop. My heart raced, a mix of fear and something warmer, something I wasn't ready to name. Outside, the world was the same houses, same streets, same high school waiting to judge us. But in that moment, with Ethan's words hanging between us, I felt like we could face it together. The next morning, school loomed like a battlefield. Westbridge High wasn't exactly a haven for kids like us. Ohio wasn't San Francisco. The word gay was still a punchline in the locker room, and the pride flag in the counselor's office felt more like a dare than a welcome. Ethan and I had always been careful, keeping our friendship loud and our secrets quiet. But after the shower, after Dad's words, something had shifted. The air between us crackled with possibility and danger. We walked to school together, our backpacks slung over our shoulders, the September chill biting at our fingertips. Ethan was quieter than usual, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. You think he meant it? He asked finally, kicking a pebble down the sidewalk. Who? Dad. I glanced at him. Yeah. He doesn't say stuff he doesn't mean. Ethan nodded, but his eyes were distant. My mom wouldn't be like that. She'd freak. I didn't know what to say. Ethan's mom, Karen, was a single parent too, but where my dad was steady. She was a whirlwind church every Sunday, always talking about values and the right path. Ethan had never told her how he felt, but I'd seen the way her words cut him when she ranted about sin over dinner. At school, we slipped back into our roles, Ethan, the charming jock, and me, the quiet sidekick. But every glance he shot me in the hallway felt like a secret, a spark that could ignite or destroy us. By lunch, the rumors had already started. Jake Thompson, a linebacker with a mouth bigger than his brain, leaned over our table in the cafeteria, smirking. Heard you two had a real bonding moment this weekend, he said, his voice loud enough to turn heads. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he laughed it off, tossing a fry at Jake. Jealous. Thompson, maybe you should try showering with your boys sometime. The table erupted in laughter, but I saw the strain in Ethan's eyes. Jake's comment wasn't random. Someone had seen something, heard something. In a town like ours, secrets didn't stay buried long. That afternoon, during soccer practice, I sat in the bleachers, pretending to do homework while watching Ethan sprint across the field. He was a force, all lean muscle and focus, but I could tell he was distracted. When coach blew the whistle, Ethan jogged over, sweat dripping down his face. We need to talk, he said, low enough that only I could hear. After practice, meet me at the creek. The creek was our spot, a hidden bend of water behind the old mill where we'd spent countless summers skipping rocks and dreaming about getting out of this town. It was where Ethan first told me he didn't care about girls the way other guys did, where I admitted I didn't either. It was where we'd built our trust, brick by brick, until it became something more. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink, I waited by the creek, my stomach twisting. Ethan showed up, his soccer gear swapped for a hoodie, his hair still damp. He didn't sit, just stood there, staring at the water. "Lucas," he said finally, "what are we doing?" It was the same question I'd asked him last night, but now it felt heavier, like it carried the weight of every choice we'd ever made. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I know I don't want to lose you." He turned to me, his eyes fierce. "Then we need to figure this out. Because if Jake's already talking, it's only a matter of time before everyone else does." I nodded, my throat tight. The world was closing in, and we were running out of places to hide. But as Ethan stepped closer, his hand brushing mine, I felt a spark of defiance. Maybe we didn't have to hide. Maybe we could fight for us. For this. For whatever we were becoming. The creek's gentle ripple was the only sound as Ethan's hand lingered near mine, his fingers twitching like he wanted to grab hold but wasn't sure he should. The air was cool, the kind of autumn evening that made you pull your jacket tighter. But my skin burned where his hand brushed mine. We stood there, caught between fear and wanting, knowing that whatever we chose next would change everything. School the next day was a minefield. Jake Thompson's comment had spread like wildfire, twisted and exaggerated by the time it reached the hallways. By second period, I overheard a group of girls whispering about Ethan and Lucas in the locker room, their giggles sharp as knives. Ethan played it cool, flashing his signature grin, but I saw the way his shoulders tensed when he thought no one was watching. I wanted to tell him it didn't matter, that we could handle it, but the truth was, I wasn't sure we could. At lunch, we avoided the CAF, grabbing our trays and heading to the courtyard instead. It was quieter there, just a few kids smoking behind the art building and a couple of freshmen playing cards. Ethan poked at his mac and cheese, his usual appetite gone. "My mom called me last night," he said, not looking up. "She heard something from Mrs. Larson next door. Asked me if I was hanging out with the wrong crowd." I winced. Mrs. Larson was the neighborhood gossip, always peering through her curtains like she was auditioning for a spy movie. "What did you tell her?" "Nothing," he said, his voice flat. "Just that we were messing around, playing soccer. She didn't buy it, though. Kept asking why we were always together." I stared at my untouched burger, my stomach churning. What's she gonna do if she finds out? Ethan's jaw tightened. "She'll send me to one of those church camps. You know, the ones that fix you." He made air quotes, his voice dripping with bitterness. "She's been talking about it since I was 13, and she caught me looking at stuff." I didn't ask what stuff was. I didn't need to. We'd both spent years dodging questions, hiding browser histories, laughing off crushes we couldn't explain. But now, with the rumors swirling and Dad's unexpected acceptance hanging over me, I felt like I was standing on a tightrope, one wrong step from falling. That afternoon, I had art class, my one escape from the chaos. Ms. Harper, the teacher, was a free spirit with purple hair and a knack for seeing through people's walls. She'd given me a sketchbook last year, told me to draw what I felt, not what I saw. Today, I sketched Ethan's sharp jawline, his messy hair, the way his eyes lit up when he laughed. I was so lost in it that I didn't notice a mess. Harper standing behind me until she spoke. "That's beautiful, Lucas," she said softly. "Whoever he is, he's lucky to have you see him like that." I froze, my pencil hovering over the page. "It's just a friend," I mumbled, slamming the sketchbook shut. She smiled, her eyes kind but knowing. "Art doesn't lie, Lucas. Neither should you." Her words stuck with me, a quiet challenge I wasn't ready to face. After class, I found Ethan waiting by my locker, his soccer bag slung over his shoulder. "You okay?" He asked, his voice low. Yeah, I lied. Just MS. Harper said some stuff. Made me think. He raised an eyebrow. Good stuff or bad stuff? Good, I guess. I hesitated, then blurted. She saw my sketch of you. Said it was beautiful. Ethan's face softened, a rare vulnerability breaking through his usual bravado. You drew me. I nodded, my cheeks hot. Don't make it weird. He laughed, a real laugh, the kind that made my chest ache. Too late for that. Rivera. For a moment, it was just us, the hallway noise fading into the background. But then Jake Thompson and his crew rounded the corner, their laughter loud and mean. Yo, Caldwell. Jake called. You and your boyfriend got plans tonight. Ethan's smile vanished. He stepped forward, fists clenched, but I grabbed his arm. Don't, I whispered. He's not worth it. Jake kept going, his voice carrying. What's the matter, Ethan? Too busy showering with your bestie. The hallway went quiet, kids turning to stare. Ethan's face was stone, but I could feel him shaking under my grip. Let's go, I said, pulling him toward the exit. We didn't stop until we were outside, the cold air hitting us like a slap. He's gonna pay for that, Ethan muttered, his voice low and dangerous. Not like this, I said. You fight him. It's worse for us. You know that. He kicked a rock across the parking lot, frustration radiating off him. I'm sick of hiding. Lucas. Aren't you? I was. God. I was. But hiding was safe. And safe was all I'd ever known. We just need to be smart, I said, hating how weak it sounded. Wait it out. Ethan looked at me, his eyes searching. Wait for what? For everyone to forget. For my mom to ship me off. For your dad to change his mind. He won't, I said, more forcefully than I felt. He meant what he said. Ethan didn't reply, just stared at the ground. His shoulders slumped. For the first time, I saw how heavy this was for him, how much he was carrying alone. I wanted to reach out, to tell him we'd figure it out, but the words stuck in my throat. That night, Dad was quiet at dinner, his usual questions about school replaced by a tense silence. I pushed my food around my plate, waiting for him to bring up the shower, the rumors, anything. Finally, he set his fork down and looked at me. Lucas, I talked to your coach today. He heard some stuff about you and Ethan. My stomach dropped. What did he say? Said some kids are talking. Said it might be a problem for the team. Dad's voice was steady, but his eyes were worried. I told him to mind his own business. But you need to be careful. People around here, they don't always understand. I nodded, my throat tight. I know. He reached across the table, his hand resting on mine for a moment. I'm on your side. Mijo. Always. But this town, it's not always kind. I wanted to tell him everything about Ethan, about the fear eating me alive, about the way my heart raced every time Ethan smiled. But all I could manage was, thanks, Dad. After dinner, I texted Ethan. Meet me at the creek. Midnight. I needed to see him, to know we were still us, no matter what the world threw our way. The creek was dark, the moon barely a sliver above the trees. Ethan was already there, sitting on a rock, his hoodie pulled up. Couldn't sleep. He asked, his voice soft. Nope. I sat beside him, our knees brushing. You. He shook his head. Mom was on the phone with her pastor when I left, talking about me. My heart sank. What did she say? Same old crap. That I'm confused. That I need saving. He laughed, bitter and sharp. She doesn't even know anything for sure, and she's already planning my exorcism. I reached for his hand, tentative at first, then bolder. His fingers laced with mine, warm and steady. "We'll figure it out," I said, echoing words I wasn't sure I believed. "Together." He turned to me, his eyes catching the moonlight. "You mean that?" "Yeah," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I do." And then he kissed me. It was quick, fierce, like he was afraid it'd be the last time. My heart pounded, the world narrowing to the warmth of his lips, the rush of finally crossing that line. When we pulled apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. "Whatever happens," he said, "I'm glad it's with you." We sat there until the cold drove us back, hand in hand, stealing moments the world wasn't ready to give us. But as we walked home, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The kiss by the creek lingered like a secret tattooed on my skin, invisible but burning every time I thought of Ethan. It was reckless, dangerous, but it was ours. And for one fleeting moment, I felt free. By Monday morning, though, that freedom was gone, replaced by the suffocating weight of whispers and stares that followed us through Westbridge High's crowded halls. The rumors had grown teeth. By third period, someone had scrawled Caldwell plus Rivera in a heart on Ethan's locker. The ink smeared like an accusation. Ethan laughed it off, but his eyes were hard, and I could tell he was one wrong word away from snapping. I wanted to erase it, to scrub the evidence of us away. But part of me, a small, defiant part, wanted to leave it there, to let the world know we weren't ashamed. At lunch, we skipped the courtyard and hid in the library, a place neither of us usually went. The quiet was a relief, but it couldn't drown out the noise in my head. Ethan sat across from me, flipping through a random book without reading it. "We can't keep doing this," he said suddenly, his voice low. "Hiding. Pretending." I glanced around, making sure no one was close. "What's the alternative?" "Tell everyone." "Maybe." He leaned forward, his hands gripping the table. "What if we just owned it? Stopped letting Jake and his idiots control the story?" My stomach twisted. "Ethan, you know what happens if we do that? Your mom, the team, the whole damn town. I don't care about them." He cut in, his voice fierce. "I care about you." The words hit me like a punch, stealing my breath. I wanted to say it back, to tell him he was the only thing keeping me sane. But fear choked me. "I care about you too," I managed. "But we have to be smart. We're not even sure what this is yet." His face fell, and I hated myself for it. "I know what it is," he said quietly. "I've known for a while." Before I could respond, the bell rang, shattering the moment. We grabbed our bags and headed to class. But Ethan's words stayed with me, a challenge I wasn't ready to meet. That afternoon, soccer practice was brutal. Coach Reynolds pulled Ethan aside before drills, his face grim. I couldn't hear what he said, but Ethan's shoulders slumped, and when he jogged back to the field, he wouldn't meet my eyes. After practice, I caught up with him in the locker room, where the air was thick with sweat and tension. "What did Coach say?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Ethan yanked off his cleats, his movements sharp. "Told me to keep my personal life out of the team. Said the guys are distracted, and it's affecting our game." "That's bullshit," I said, anger flaring. "You're the best player they've got." "Doesn't matter." He slammed his locker shut. "He's giving me a week to sort it out, or I'm benched." I felt sick. Soccer was Ethan's life, his ticket out of this town. Losing it would crush him. "What are you gonna do?" He looked at me, his eyes raw. "I don't know, Lucas. But I'm not gonna pretend I'm someone I'm not." I wanted to hug him, to tell him we'd find a way. But the locker room was no place for that. Instead, I nodded, my throat tight. "We'll figure it out." That night, Dad was waiting when I got home, his work boots off. A rare sign he wasn't rushing to a job. "You and Ethan okay?" he asked, his voice careful. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just school stuff." He studied me, his dark eyes seeing more than I wanted. "You know you can talk to me, right? About anything." I swallowed hard. "I know." He didn't push, just handed me a plate of leftover tacos. "Eat. You look like you're carrying the world." I ate in silence, my mind racing. Dad's support was a lifeline, but it couldn't protect us from the town, from Ethan's mom, from the team. I needed a plan, but all I had was fear and a sketchbook full of Ethan's face. The next day, things got worse. Ethan's mom showed up at school, her SUV parked right in front of the main entrance. She marched into the principal's office, her face set like she was going to war. By lunch, the whole school knew she demanded a meeting about inappropriate behavior on the soccer team. Ethan wasn't in the cafeteria, and when I texted him, he didn't reply. I found him at the creek after school, sitting on our rock, his knees pulled to his chest. "She's pulling me out," he said without looking up. "Says she's enrolling me in some private Christian school. Thinks it'll fix me." My heart sank. "When?" "End of the week. If she gets her way." His voice cracked. "She found my phone. Saw our texts." I froze. Our texts weren't explicit, but they were enough late-night messages about the creek, about wanting to run away together, about how he made me feel alive. What did she say? He laughed, a hollow sound. Said I'm going to hell unless I change. Said you're a bad influence. Anger surged through me, hot and sharp. She's wrong. She doesn't know you. She doesn't want to. He looked at me, his eyes red. I told her I'm not confused. I told her I'm gay, and I'm not ashamed of it. And she just cried, like I'd died. I sat beside him, our shoulders touching. You're not alone, I said, my voice fierce. You've got me. And Dad. He nodded, but his eyes were distant. I don't know how to do this, Lucas. I don't know how to be me and keep her. We sat there as the sun sank, the creek reflecting the last of the light. I wanted to promise him everything would be okay, but I didn't know how. All I knew was that I wasn't letting him gon it to his mom. Not to this town. Not to anyone. That night, I lay awake, my mind spinning with plans. Running away was tempting, but we were 17, broke, and stuck in Ohio. Confronting Ethan's mom was a non-starter. She'd never listen. The only option was to fight for him here, in the open, no matter the cost. The next morning, I found Ms. Harper in the art room before school. I need your help, I said, my voice shaking. For Ethan. She didn't ask questions, just nodded. Tell me what you need. I told her everything, the rumors, Ethan's mom, the team. She listened, her face calm but resolute. You're not alone, Lucas, she said. There's a GSA club here. Small, but fierce. And I know people in town who can help. Hope flickered, fragile but real. You think we can stop her? I think we can try, she said. But it starts with you and Ethan being honest. With yourselves. With each other. I nodded, my resolve hardening. That afternoon, I texted Ethan to meet me at the art room after school. When he showed up, his eyes were tired, but he managed a small smile. What's this about? We're done hiding, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We're gonna fight. For you. For us. His eyes widened. Lucas, if we do this, I know, I cut in, but I'm not losing you. Not now. Not ever. He grabbed my hand, his grip tight. Okay, he said, his voice breaking. Let's do it. Ethan's hand in mine felt like an anchor, grounding me as we stood in the art room, the weight of our decision settling over us. MS. Harper's words echoed in my head. Be honest. With yourselves. With each other. But honesty in a town like ours was a weapon, and we were about to wield it, not knowing if it would save us or destroy us. The GSA meeting was in a cramped classroom at the end of the hall, a place I'd never set foot in before. It was small, just 6 kids and MS. Harper. But their energy was electric, like they'd been waiting for a fight. There was Priya, a senior with a sharp wit and a rainbow pin on her backpack. Jamal, a quiet sophomore who sketched manga in the margins of his notes. And Mia, a junior who'd come out as by last year and hadn't spoken to her parents since. They welcomed us with nods. No judgment, just understanding. MS. Harper laid out the plan. Ethan's mom couldn't legally pull him from school without his consent. Not at 17. But she could make his life hell. The key was support people who'd back Ethan if he stood his ground. There's a community center in town. MS. Harper said. They've got lawyers, counselors, people who've dealt with this before. I've already reached out. Ethan shifted beside me, his hand still in mine under the table. What if she doesn't listen? He asked, his voice low. She's not like Lucas's dad. She thinks I'm broken. Priya leaned forward, her eyes fierce. Then we show her you're not. We show her you've got a whole community behind you. I squeezed Ethan's hand, my heart racing. This was real people willing to fight for us. For him. For the first time, I felt like we weren't alone. That night, I told Dad everything. We sat in the kitchen, the clock ticking past midnight, my voice shaking as I spilled it all, the kiss, the rumors, Ethan's mom. He listened, his face unreadable, until I finished. Then he leaned back, his hands folded. You're brave, Lucas, he said. Braver than I was at your age. I blinked, surprised. You're not mad. He shook his head. I'm scared for you. This town, these people, they don't always make it easy. But I meant what I said. I'm on your side. Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back. Can you help us? Ethan's mom, she's going to take him away. Dad nodded, his jaw tight. I'll talk to her. Might not change her mind, but I'll try. The next day, Ethan and I walked to school together, our steps heavier than usual. The GSA had given us a plan, but it was a long shot. Ethan's mom had already scheduled a meeting with the principal, and rumors were flying that she was pushing for Ethan to be expelled for disrupting the team. It was nonsense, but in a town like ours, nonsense could be enough. At school, Jake Thompson was waiting by the entrance, his smirk wider than ever. Heard your mom's flipping out. Caldwell, he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Guess you're not so golden anymore. Ethan lunged, but I grabbed him, pulling him back. He's not worth it, I hissed, my heart pounding. Jake laughed, sauntering off, but the damage was done. The hallway buzzed with whispers, and Ethan's face was pale, his fists clenched. We can't let him win, I said, my voice low. We stick to the plan. Ethan nodded, but his eyes were haunted. I just want to be me. Lucas, why is that so hard? I didn't have an answer, but I held his gaze, willing him to feel my strength. Because it's worth it, I said. You're worth it. The meeting with the principal was that afternoon. Ethan's mom sat across from us, her face a mask of anger and hurt. The principal, Mr. Daniels, looked uncomfortable, his tie too tight. MS. Harper was there, along with a counselor from the community center, a woman named Dr. Ellis with a calm voice and a no-nonsense attitude. Mrs. Caldwell spoke first, her voice sharp. Ethan's behavior is unacceptable. He's been influenced by bad elements. Her eyes flicked to me, and I felt Dad tense beside me. Dr. Ellis leaned forward. Mrs. Caldwell, Ethan's not a child. He's 17, and he has rights. If he wants to stay at Westbridge, you can't force him to leave. Mrs. Caldwell's face reddened. He's my son. I know what's best for him. Do you? Ethan's voice cut through the room. Quiet but steady. Because you don't know me, Mom. You don't know how I feel. Who I am. The room went silent. Mrs. Caldwell's eyes filled with tears, but her jaw stayed set. You're confused, Ethan. This isn't you. It is, he said, his voice breaking. I'm gay, Mom, and I'm not ashamed of it. I reached for his hand under the table, my heart swelling with pride and fear. Dad cleared his throat, his voice steady. Karen, I know this is hard. I didn't get it at first either. But Ethan's a good kid. So's Lucas. They don't need fixing, they need us to listen. Mrs. Caldwell didn't respond, just stared at Ethan like she was seeing a stranger. Mr. Daniels shifted in his seat. Mrs. Caldwell, we can't expel Ethan without cause. The rumors, they're just that. Rumors. Dr. Ellis nodded. The community center can offer support for Ethan. For you. There's a group for parents. It might help. Mrs. Caldwell stood, her purse clutched tight. I need time to think, she said, her voice cold. She looked at Ethan, her eyes softening for a moment. I love you, Ethan. But I can't. I need time. She left, the door clicking shut behind her. Ethan's shoulders slumped, but he didn't cry. I squeezed his hand, my own eyes burning. You were amazing, I whispered. He gave me a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Now what? Now we keep going. MS. Harper said, her voice firm. You've got us, Ethan. All of us. That night, Ethan stayed at our house, his mom's silence louder than any argument. Dad made us pancakes, his way of saying everything would be okay, even if he didn't know how. As we ate, Ethan's phone buzzed a text from his mom. Come home tomorrow. We'll talk. He stared at the screen, his face unreadable. What if she doesn't change? He asked, his voice small. Then you've got me, I said, my voice fierce. And Dad. And the GSA. You're not alone. He nodded, his hand finding mine under the table. It wasn't a solution, but it was a start. We'd fought for this moment, for the right to be us, and we weren't backing down. Ethan's hand trembled as he set his phone down, his mom's text glowing like a warning sign. The kitchen was quiet. The only sound the soft clink of Dad's spatula as he flipped another pancake. I wanted to promise Ethan that his mom would come around, that love would win. But the truth was, we were kids in a world that didn't always bend. The next day, Ethan went home to face his mom. I wanted to go with him, to stand by his side, but he shook his head. I need to do this alone, he said, his voice steady but his eyes scared. I nodded, my throat tight, and watched him walk down the street, his hoodie hunched against the morning chill. At school, the rumors had quieted, but the tension hadn't. Jake Thompson and his crew still threw smirks our way, but the GSA's presence was a shield. Priya and Mia walked with me to class, their chatter a welcome distraction. Ethan's tough, Priya said, adjusting her rainbow pin. He'll be okay. I wanted to believe her, but the waiting was torture. By lunch, Ethan still hadn't texted, and my mind spun with worst-case scenarios: his mom dragging him to that church camp. Or worse, kicking him out. I skipped fifth period and headed to the art room, where Ms. Harper let me sit and draw, her silence a comfort. My sketchbook filled with images of Ethan, his smile, his eyes, the way he stood at the creek like he could take on the world. Each stroke was a prayer, a hope that he'd come back to me. When the bell rang, I checked my phone and saw a text, "Meet me at the creek." 4 p.m. I got there early, the water glinting under the afternoon sun. Ethan showed up, his face tired but calm, like he'd been through a storm and come out the other side. "How'd it go?" I asked, my heart pounding. He sat on our rock, his hands in his lap. "She cried a lot. Said she doesn't understand, but she's trying. Said she won't send me away, for now." Relief flooded me, but it was tempered by his tone. "For now?" He nodded. "She wants me to go to church with her, talk to her pastor." I said I'd go, but only if she listens to me too. I sat beside him, our knees touching. "That's progress, right?" "Maybe." He looked at me, his eyes soft. "She asked about you. Said she doesn't want me seeing you so much." My stomach dropped. "What did you say?" "Told her you're my best friend. And more." He smiled, a real one this time. "Told her I'm not giving you up." My heart swelled, and I leaned into him, our shoulders pressed together. "You're crazy, Caldwell." "Crazy about you," he said, his voice low. It was cheesy, but it made me laugh. And for a moment, the world felt lighter. That night, Dad invited Ethan over for dinner again, sensing we needed the normalcy. We ate spaghetti, and Dad told stories about his old construction jobs, making Ethan laugh for the first time in days. After, we sat on the couch, watching some dumb action movie, our hands brushing under a blanket. It wasn't much, but it was ours. The next few days were a fragile piece. Ethan's mom didn't push the church thing, but she watched him like a hawk, checking his phone, asking where he was going. At school, the GSA rallied around us, planning a pride event for the spring, something small but bold. Jake Thompson backed off, maybe sensing the tide turning, or maybe just bored. But I knew it wasn't over, not with him, not with this town. On Friday, Ethan got called into Coach Reynolds' office again. I waited outside, my stomach in knots. When he came out, his face was grim. "He's benching me for the next game," he said. "Says it's not about us, but I know it is." "That's not fair," I said, anger flaring. "You're the best they've got." "Doesn't matter." He shrugged, but his eyes were hurt. "They want me to keep my head down, stay out of trouble." I grabbed his arm, pulling him close. "You're not trouble, Ethan. You're you." He looked at me, his eyes searching. "You really believe that?" "More than anything," I said, my voice fierce. He kissed me, quick and desperate, right there in the empty hallway. It was reckless, but I didn't care. For the first time, I felt like we could do this, face the world. The rumors, his mom, all of it. That weekend, we went to the community center with Ms. Harper. It was a low brick building on the edge of town, with a rainbow flag in the window that made my heart skip. Inside, we met other kids like us, some out, some not, all carrying their own battles. There was a guy named Alex, a college freshman who'd been kicked out by his parents but found a new family here. "It gets better," he told us, his voice steady. "Not easy, but better." Ethan nodded, his hand in mine. "I just want to be me," he said, "without losing everyone." "You won't," Alex said. "You've got people now." Back at home, Dad was waiting with pizza and a question. "You boys thought about what's next?" he asked, his voice careful. "After high school, I mean." I glanced at Ethan, unsure. "College, maybe," I said. "Somewhere, not here." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, somewhere we can be us." Dad smiled, a rare, soft smile. Good. You deserve that. That night, Ethan slept over, his sleeping bag next to my bed like always. But this time, he climbed in with me, his arms wrapping around me in the dark. I'm scared, he whispered, his breath warm against my neck. Me too, I admitted. But we've got this. He kissed my shoulder, a quiet promise. As I drifted off, I thought about the future college, a new city, a life where we didn't have to hide. It felt far away, but for the first time, it felt possible. The warmth of Ethan's arms around me lingered into the morning, a quiet rebellion against the world outside my bedroom. We were still kids, still scared, but in that moment, we were untouchable. The future was a distant promise, but the present, his heartbeat against mine, was enough to keep me fighting. School felt different now, like the air had shifted. The GSA's Pride event was gaining traction, with posters going up despite the principal's nervous glances. Priya and Mia were relentless, organizing bake sales and planning a talent show to raise funds. Ethan and I helped, painting signs in the art room after school, our hands brushing as we worked. It was small, but it felt like a stand, a way to say we weren't invisible. Ethan's mom was still a wild card. She'd backed off on the private school threat, but her talks with Ethan were tense, filled with Bible verses and tears. He came to our house most nights, his excuse being homework, but Dad didn't question it. Your mom will come around, Dad said one evening, handing Ethan a soda. Takes time, is all. Ethan nodded, but his eyes were doubtful. She keeps saying she loves me, but it feels like she loves who she wants me to be. I wanted to fix it, to make her see him the way I did, brave, fierce, whole. But all I could do was be there, my hand finding his under the table, a silent promise. At school, Coach Reynolds eased up, letting Ethan back on the field after a team meeting where the guys were told to focus on the game, not gossip. Ethan played harder than ever, like every goal was a middle finger to the doubters. I watched from the bleachers, my sketchbook open, capturing the way he moved, fluid, alive, unstoppable. But Jake Thompson wasn't done. During a game the next week, he accidentally tripped Ethan on the field, his smirk visible from the stands. Ethan got up, his face a mask of rage, but he didn't swing. Instead, he scored the winning goal, the crowd roaring as he pointed at me in the bleachers, a secret message in his grin. After the game, Jake cornered us in the parking lot, his buddies behind him. You think you're untouchable now, Caldwell? He sneered. Whole team's laughing at you. Ethan stepped forward, his voice low. They're laughing at you, Jake. You're so obsessed with me. It's pathetic. Jake's face reddened, but before he could swing, Coach Reynolds appeared, his whistle sharp. Thompson, back off. You're done here. Jake slunk away, but his eyes promised trouble. I grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him toward my car. You okay? Yeah, he said, but his voice shook. Just tired of this. I drove us to the creek, the only place that still felt safe. We sat on our rock, the water reflecting the stars. I want to leave, Ethan said suddenly. After graduation, go somewhere no one knows us. Like where? I asked, my heart racing. California, maybe. Or New York. Somewhere we can just be. I nodded, the idea sparking something in me. We'll make it happen. Together. He leaned into me, his head on my shoulder. You're the only thing keeping me sane, Lucas. I kissed his forehead, my heart full. Same. The next day, Ms. Harper called us into the art room. The community center's hosting a family night, she said. A chance for parents to talk. Learn. I think you should invite your mom. Ethan. He hesitated, his jaw tight. She won't come. Try. MS. Harper said. You'd be surprised what love can do. That night, Ethan texted his mom about the event, his fingers shaking as he hit send. To our shock, she agreed, but only if her pastor could come too. It wasn't ideal, but it was a start. The family night was in a community center room, filled with folding chairs and nervous energy. Ethan's mom sat stiffly, her pastor beside her, a man with a stern face and a Bible in his lap. Dad was there, his presence steady, and other parents some supportive. Some skeptical filled the seats. Dr. Ellis led the discussion, her voice calm as she talked about acceptance, identity, love. When it was Ethan's turn to speak, he stood, his hands in his pockets. I'm not confused, he said, his voice clear. I'm not broken. I'm just me. And I love Lucas. I just want to be able to live without hiding. The room was silent, every eye on him. His mom's face crumpled, but she didn't look away. The pastor opened his mouth, but Dr. Ellis cut him off, her voice gentle but firm. Let him speak. Ethan sat, his hand finding mine. I squeezed it, pride swelling in my chest. His mom didn't speak, but when the night ended, she hugged him, her tears soaking his shirt. I don't understand, she whispered, but I'm trying. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was something. As we left, Dad clapped Ethan on the shoulder. You did good, kid. Back home, we lay in my bed, the world quiet for once. You were incredible, I said, my voice soft. He smiled, his eyes heavy. Couldn't have done it without you. We fell asleep tangled together, the future still uncertain but less terrifying. We were building something to life, a fight, a love that could withstand the storm. The community center's family night left a fragile hope in my chest, like a seed planted in rocky soil. Ethan's mom hadn't fully come around, but her hug, her tears, felt like a crack in the wall she'd built. As winter crept into Ohio, Ethan and I held onto each other, determined to carve out a space where we could be us, no matter what the world thought. The weeks that followed were a balancing act. Ethan's mom stopped pushing the church camp, but she set rules: no sleepovers, no unsupervised time with me. Ethan followed them, mostly, but we stole moments at the creek, in the art room, anywhere we could be alone. Each kiss, each whispered promise, was a defiance, a reminder that we were stronger than the town's judgment. At school, the GSA's Pride event grew into something bigger than we'd expected. The talent show was set for spring, and kids who'd never spoken up before joined in, sharing poems, songs, stories. Ethan signed up to perform, a spoken-word piece about freedom, and I helped him write it. Our nights filled with words and laughter. My sketches became posters, bold colors shouting acceptance, and MS. Harper hung them everywhere, daring the school to push back. Jake Thompson stayed quiet, his influence fading as the team rallied around Ethan. Coach Reynolds, maybe shamed by his earlier threats, gave Ethan more playtime, and the crowd's cheers drowned out the last of the whispers. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Dad became our rock. He started coming to GSA meetings, sitting in the back with a proud smile, learning words like ally and queer that felt foreign but right. One night, he pulled me aside. I'm proud of you, Lucas, he said, his voice thick. Your mom would have been too. I hugged him, tears spilling over. Mom had been the dreamer, the one who'd taught me to draw, to see beauty in the world. Knowing Dad saw her in me, in this fight, made it mean more. Ethan's mom was slower to change. She went to the community center's parent group, her pastor trailing like a shadow. Sometimes she listened, sometimes she argued, but she kept showing up. One night, She called Ethan to the kitchen and handed him a pamphlet for a college in California with a strong LGBTQ plus program. I'm not there yet, she said, her voice tight. But I want you to have a future. Ethan showed me the pamphlet later, his eyes bright. San Francisco, he said, grinning. You in? Always, I said, my heart soaring. We started planning, dreaming of a city where we could hold hands in public, where love wasn't a secret. College was a year away, but it was a light at the end of the tunnel. The Pride event arrived in April. The school gym transformed with lights and music. Ethan took the stage, his voice steady as he spoke his truth, a boy who loved fiercely, who refused to hide. The crowd cheered, and I saw his mom in the back, her face unreadable but her presence of victory. My sketch was projected behind him, a portrait of us at the creek, our hands entwined, a future unwritten but ours. After, we slipped outside, the night air warm with spring. We did it, Ethan said, his hand in mine. We're doing it, I corrected, pulling him close. Every day? He kissed me, slow and sure, the world fading away. We weren't free, yet not from the town. Not from the fight, but we were free in this moment. And that was enough. Dad drove us home, his radio playing old rock songs. You boys are something else, he said, his voice warm. Don't ever forget it. We didn't. As we lay in my bed that night, Ethan's arms around me, I thought about the shower, the moment that started it all. Dad's words back then, I love you. No matter what had been a lifeline, a spark that lit our fight. We'd faced rumors, fear, a town that wasn't ready, and we'd come out stronger. The future was still uncertain, but it was ours. We'd go to California, or New York, or somewhere no one could tell us who to be. We'd build a life, not just for us, but for the kids like us who'd come next. And we'd do it together, hand in hand, no matter what. As Ethan's breathing slowed, his head on my chest, I whispered, I love you. He stirred, his voice sleepy but sure. Love you too, Lucas. And in that quiet, in the heart of a town that tried to break us, we found our forever.